Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we stream live at 9 a.m. in the morning, and we take your live questions during those shows. However, we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But since you sent them in, I want to make sure those questions get answered properly in a video. So I gather up those questions, and we address them here in companion videos. So let's not waste any time, guys. I'm going to let you know right off the top here as we get into the questions too. Understand this. We're here to talk about movies and entertainment, something that's all subjective. My job as a film pundit is not to say things you agree with. Understand, if you watch this video, I'm probably going to say, hopefully, some things you disagree with. You see, my job isn't to say things you agree with, nor is it my job to convince you to agree with me. No. What fun would that be? You see, my job is to give you my honest opinion on things. Hopefully, I give my opinion in such a way that it helps you clarify in your own mind why you agree with me or why you disagree with me. Either is good. If I state my opinion in such a way that helps you better and clearly more identify why it is you disagree with me, awesome, then I've done my job and we as film fans can continue to have great discussion together. So agree with me, disagree with me, doesn't really matter. As long as we get to talk movies together, that's the important thing. Okay, with that down, now let's get on with getting caught up on the questions. And the first one we're going to get caught up on here today comes to us from Vincent Vasquez Sponsler, who writes, "Hey, John, Rob, and Ashley." Obviously, Rob and Ashley aren't here anymore. Love the show. Thank you so much, Vincent. Have you seen Barry or Silicon Valley on HBO? Great shows by Alex Berg, who I think is brilliant. Highly recommend. I have seen some of Silicon Valley, not a ton of it though, but I've liked what I've seen. Barry, I love. Now, I haven't started watching season 2 yet. I'm only all the way through season 1. I've been waiting for Anne to get caught up so I can start watching season 2 with her, but I adore this show. I am very excited about watching season 2, and I can't wait to get around to it. Thanks for the recommendations, man. All right. Murray Reich writes, just saw the Always Be My Maybe Netflix film trailer, and it looks pretty good. The ending surprise, oh my God. Yeah, we talked about that trailer today on the John Campea Show. Love it. Honestly, without hyperbole, I cannot remember the last time, if ever, that I've been this excited about a straight-to-Netflix movie. They usually end up trash. Not always, but usually. This looks fabulous with Ali Wong. I'm so excited for this movie. I thought the trailer was great. Guys, if you haven't seen it yet, follow Murray's advice and check out the Always Be My Maybe, not baby, Always Be My Maybe trailer for the upcoming movie on Netflix. I think you're going to enjoy it and watch it all the way through to the end. Okay. Aiden Cossack writes, "Hey y'all, hope you're having a great start to the day. I have had a great day. Thank you so much. I saw Rocket Man Saturday and it was fabulous. Fantastical is the perfect word for this movie. I'm excited for it. You know, I've been excited for it since they said it was really not a biopic. It's really more of a fantasy musical adventure, a fantasy romp musical sort of thing, more in the lines of a Moulin Rouge. Now, the most recent trailers, because Bohemian Rhapsody was so successful at the box office, they changed their trailers to be more state of the regular run-of-the-mill biopic trailers to kind of jump on that Bohemian Rhapsody success, which I think is a little deceptive. But still, marketing aside, I've been excited for this. I'm hearing good things. I'm very excited about finally going to check out Rocket Man in a few days. All right, Juan Mia writes, "Cobra Kai was surprisingly fun. It's easy to binge." And you know what? I'm one of the only guys I know that didn't like Cobra Kai. And I was one of the guys most excited for it. But I watched the first 5 episodes or so. Did not work for me. Anne loves it. Kaori loves it. Everybody I know loves it. And that's awesome. But I got to admit, it's the one show that didn't work for me. But I'm glad you're checking it out. And listen, guys, if you haven't checked out Cobra Kai yet, yeah, I don't like it. But listen, a lot of people do. You might want to give it a shot. So check it out and see if you enjoy it as much as most people do. All right. MZod780 writes, "When you hear friends or relatives who say they can't watch a movie because it has a female lead, I think they just might be sexy." You think? Yeah, if somebody ever says to you, "Yeah, I can't watch that. It's got a girl in the lead." Yeah, it's not a guarantee. Not a guarantee, MZod. There might be other explanations, but it might be a pretty good little red flag that you might be dealing with a sexist person. Not always, but it's probably a pretty good indicator. Randall Cartwright writes, just introduced my son to Three Ninjas. Oh my God, that's one I haven't seen in ages. He loves it. One of my favorite 90s movies. Rocky loves Emily. I remember, like, that was in an era, like coming out of the late 80s, going into the 90s. There was still a lot of stuff on ninja movies. I mean, like Enter the Ninja, like Sho Kasagi's stuff, all that classic stuff. And Three Ninjas was kind of a play on that, but for a younger audience, much like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was and all that kind of stuff. That was one I always enjoyed as a kid. I haven't seen it in forever. I don't know if it holds up today or not. I simply don't know. I should check it out again some just to see if it does. Let's see here. Dimsum05 writes, with TV shows becoming more cinematic and movies becoming more serialized, where do these two mediums meet? What's the end game and what wins out? They're still two very, very different things. Like what you're talking about is simply a stylistic similarity that's been forming. Like, first of all, 90% of movies are not serialized. Yeah, you have your shared cinematic universe stuff going on. That's great. But most movies are still true movies. They're standalone stories that get told by a filmmaker. That's still the vast majority of them. And while it is true there are some stylistic similarities, they're still very, very different beasts. Trying to get a show put together and a movie put together are two radically different things. I understand on the surface, it seems like they're starting to look a little more similar, but really underneath it, they're still radically different animals. And I don't see them being, comparable. They're two very, very different beasts, each with their advantages and disadvantages, but they are still, TV shows are still TV shows, movies are still movies. Again, there is a little bit of similarities developing and a little tiny bit of crossover, but that is the rare minority as opposed to the average at this point, say. That's just my thought on it. All right. Patrizia T writes, do you think Jorah would have still been on Dany's side after her burning of King's Landing? Yes. Jorah would have done anything for Dany, and he would have accepted anything from Dany. I have very, very little doubt that he would have still been standing by her side. Would she have accepted it? He still would have been by her side. Of that, I have very little doubt. Very little doubt at all. I mean, maybe someday Benioff and Weiss will say differently. Maybe they'll say someday that Jorah would have been aghast by what she did and turned on her, but I really don't think so. Not the way they wrote him. I think he kind of really would have stayed by her side regardless. I think she could have beheaded 500 puppies and he still would have been standing there by her side. Alan Gonzalez writes, Avengers current box office is 2.616. Like the universe 616, LOL. Have a nice day, guys. It was snowing here in Arizona. Crazy. That is crazy. I've only been to Arizona a couple times in my life, and both times I was there, very stereotypically, it was very, very hot. So that is crazy. That's there. And Avengers Endgame continues to try to march towards that Avatar box office record. It's running out of time. I still think it's going to do it. Now, for the longest time, I was the biggest pessimist, saying, nah, I can't do it. And then the opening weekend happened. It's like, well, new information. I guess it probably will. And I'm still at that point. I think it'll get there, but barely. It'll get there, but barely. We'll have to. But I don't think it's going to catch the Force Awakens domestic box office record. At this point, I just don't see it catching that. All right. KJ Lovelace writes, is it just me, or is there no real hype behind the new X-Men movie? Like, this is going to be the last X-Men movie for 5 to 8 years. Should be a bigger deal. The problem is the movie doesn't look all that good. And then the delays, it was supposed to come out November 2018, then February 2019, then bumped again to where it is now. Between the delays, the trailers not being all that good, at least not the initial ones. I thought the last one was really good, but it's too little too late. Then all the leaked words coming out saying that this movie is not turned out the way they wanted it to be. This isn't the X-Men everybody really... I mean, when people think X-Men, they think of Hugh Jackman. They think of Patrick Stewart. They think of Ian McKellen. They think of these characters as X-Men. This is a little bit of a different thing. They're coming off of X-Men Apocalypse, which was not very good in my opinion. So no, you're not wrong, KJ. There's not a lot of buzz, and it's kind of their own fault. And you know me, I love the X-Men universe. I think they've made some of the X-Men films are in my top 10 comic book movies of all time, but this one just hasn't been able to get any traction, and it's its own fault. All right. RJT Technovine writes, Arrow is the key to saving this crisis, huh? My guess is yeah. I mean, they're ending the Arrow series with the crossover event coming up, and that kind of tells me he'll be the hero of it. Now, whether he lives or dies, who knows? I think he's going to still be alive because Stephen Amell, who plays Arrow, has been dropping some hints that his character may still pop up now and again in different CW shows. So if that's the case, then maybe he still lives, or maybe there'll be flashbacks, who knows? But it does look like he's going to be, like he has in most of the crossover events, Arrow's been front and center. He's kind of been the guy. And I wouldn't doubt it at all if they do that again, especially with the series coming to an end. Damned Opinions writes, just wanted a moment to talk about TC Tuggers. I've been having some people tell me about, apparently some comedy skit online about like some kind of t-shirt, TC Tuggers t-shirt. I don't know anything about it, but I've had a few other friends talk to me about it. I don't know what it means though. I haven't seen it myself. Preston Walden writes, on the season 1 poster of Game of Thrones, on Ned's left is the three-eyed raven. Ooh, they were telling us who was going to sit there from the beginning. Oh my goodness. Huh. I hadn't even thought. Now I got to go back and look at that original. And was it a three-eyed raven? I just always thought it was like just a regular bird. I got to go back and look at that now. Because if that's true, Preston, then you just caught on to something that, yeah, they were telegraphing for us from season 1 what the whole resolution was going to be. I got to go back and look at that now. Good catch, if it's real. Damned Opinion writes, the only shirt with the dope tugging knob in front. Again, I've heard about this comedy thing, but I still don't know what it is. Jack Frazier writes, have you gotten around to watching Barry? I just caught up, and all I'll say is that it's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. I've only seen season 1 so far, and I do got to say I love it. Now, part of the reason why it rings so true to me is because living in LA, I know a lot of people that are actors and a lot of people who are struggling to become actors. And so there's a lot of people in Barry that I know, not literally, but I know those types of people. I know those people. And I've often wondered, I wonder how people who don't live in Los Angeles or New York feel about Barry. I'd be curious to know how people who don't live in LA or New York feel about Barry, but I know I like it quite a bit. Again, I haven't seen season 2 yet. I've been waiting for Anne to catch up, but once she does, I'm going to dive right into that. I cannot wait. Okay, Damned Opinions follows up again with, it's not a joke. You don't give them as a gift, as a joke, or go do pub crawls or wear them ironically. Remember what I said about TC Tuggers. Again, I think that's the online sketch thing, but I haven't seen it. So these things just keep going over my head at this point, which is not hard to do. Roberto Rickart writes, do you think there is an audience for British legends, Arthur, Robin Hood, Beowulf, or people don't care about them now? I want to see a modern good one. Look, I believe there is an audience. These are well-known, popular mythologies. Beyond that, you could look, Avatar. Nobody had heard of Avatar. Avatar wasn't popular with people before Avatar. And it came out and became the biggest film of all time, at least for now. Avatar became the #1 biggest film of all time. You make a great Arthur movie. By the way, I liked Guy Ritchie's Arthur. I know that puts me in the minority. I don't care. I like that movie. Or a Robin Hood or a Beowulf. Yeah, if you make them well, I think they can get an audience. Will they draw the biggest audience just on their own namesake? Not necessarily, but the movies can still draw. Just like, again, Avatar did. Nobody ever heard of Avatar. It was a brand new property. It came out, boom. Biggest film in the history of Hollywood, right? So it can happen. It can absolutely happen if they're done right. Okay. John To Benedict writes, and where are we at here? There it is. John, I know your thoughts on Zemo's role in Civil War, but I'm intrigued that they're including him in this show. Daniel Bruhl was great in that film. Daniel Bruhl is a great actor. My problem with Zemo in Civil War is that he didn't do anything. Now, I've had people consistently yell and scream at me, how can you say he didn't do anything? He caused the downfall of the event. When you really sit down and watch everything that happens in that movie, it was all going to happen eventually anyway. It was all leading to that anyway. The Sokovia Accords were going to come. The division amongst the Avengers over the Sokovia Accords were going to come. an issue over Bucky, who was already a wanted assassin for decades of assassination work. Eventually, that was going to become an issue. So my whole thing with Zemo as the villain in Civil War, and remember, to me, Civil War is one of the top 3 greatest comic book movies ever. I just didn't think that the villain he was actually rather inconsequential to the story. Now, I know everybody disagrees with me on that, and I'm perfectly happy having everybody disagree with me on that. But that doesn't mean I don't think Daniel Bruhl was great, and it certainly doesn't mean I don't think Zemo can be a great villain as portrayed by Daniel Bruhl in these things. So I was very excited to hear that Daniel Bruhl as Zemo was going to be included in this Falcon and Winter Soldier show. I think it's great. And I think we're now going to actually see him do something more practically impactful than he did in Civil War. That's my opinion, but I'm very excited for it because Daniel Bruhl is a great actor. All right, Phoenix Rising writes, any truth to James Wan's Mortal Kombat movie is officially happening. Yep, they announced it themselves. They're going to start shooting it later this year. I believe they said they're going to shoot it in Australia. The one big red flag, though, is that it is a first-time director and a first-time writer. And I'm just never all that comfortable when a first-time director is making the very first movie they ever direct a big, highly anticipated tentpole kind of film, like a Mortal Kombat would be. And I'm okay with a writer writing their first movie, but when you got a first-time writer who's never had a screenplay of theirs ever turned into a movie before, with a first-time director who's never directed a film before, that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm going to be honest. It makes me a little bit nervous because we can say James Wan's Mortal Kombat all we want. Fact of the matter is he ain't directing it. He's not going to be on set every day. It's not his film. He's producing it. He's going to have a lot of influence over what they do. But then when it comes down to putting boots on the ground and actually running the set and making the film, it's going to be a first-time director who's never done it before, based on a script by a guy who's never written a script before, or at least never written a script that's been produced into a movie. That doesn't mean it won't work. It doesn't mean it won't work. I'm just saying, it makes me a little bit nervous. That's all. And I think it's fair to be a little nervous. So I'm just a little bit nervous about it. All right. Devontae Brown writes, have you heard actor Jason Mitchell? Yeah, I did hear about this. Have you heard actor Jason Mitchell from Straight Outta Compton has been fired from pretty much everything, including his own show? What's going on? Okay. For those you've not heard, this started making its way around the major trades the other day. He has been fired from his show, fired from another show he was getting ready to go into production on. He was fired by his agency and fired by his manager. When I was reading the reports, they still had not said what it is that they apparently have discovered that he did, but it was enough to not only lose his show and all the other work he had coming up, but also be dropped by his management and also be dropped by his agent. So that's pretty significant. And I don't think the official news has come out about what it is he did. Quite frankly, I'm not big on celebrity gossip. It's not my concern so much. The fact that a star of some major television series is suddenly now not on those shows, that's news. So that's fine. But I just, all I can do is hope that whatever it is they're saying he did, which they're not letting us know yet, I hope it's not true. I just hope his name gets cleared. If he didn't do it, I hope it isn't true. I'm not saying I hope he gets off if he did it, whatever it is. I'm not saying that. I'm hoping he didn't do it, but it doesn't look good right now. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to speculate too much. I don't want to take guesses at what it might be. I'm just saying it doesn't look good, Devontae, and I don't know what it is, and I'm kind of nervous to find out what it was. Okay, anyway. Forever Steedzed writes, hey, John, first super chat. Well, thank you so much for writing in, Forever. Been here since the broom closet days. Those were good days, my friend. We share a lot of the same opinions. However, sometimes we disagree. That's the subjectivity of film. But John, you love Man of Steel, which means you're okay with me, pal. Keep it filthy. Well, thank you so much, Forever. And yeah, guys, like sometimes people write to me and almost apologetically say, you know, John, I gotta say, I don't always agree with you. Dude, we're not supposed to agree all the time. What fun is it being film fans together if all we do has the same opinions? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like having, when Rob and I aren't on the show and we're talking about movies and films, I like our conversations when we agree on something, sure. But our more fun conversations are when we disagree on something. That's when it's fun to be a film fan. And you know, again, like I said at the top, my job is not to say things you agree with, and it's not my job to convince you to agree with me. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, John, you didn't convince me to agree with you. I'm not trying to convince you to agree with me. If you don't agree with me, I don't want you to agree with me. All I'm trying to do is say my opinions in such a way that hopefully you find informative, entertaining, and help you better sharpen your perception about why it is you disagree with me. And if that's all that happens, then mission accomplished, and we're film fans having some good discussion together. Anyway, I'm glad you wrote in, man. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and I'm glad you've been along ever since the storage closet days. That was a while ago now. All right. Imran Suhail writes, Zemo hurt them without any powers. Great choice. Again, to me, he really didn't. Nothing he did wasn't something that wasn't already in process to some degree anyway. But he's a great character. Even in the movie, he's a great character. I don't think he did anything of consequence, but he's a great character being played by a great actor. So I am thrilled they're going to use him in this series. And because remember, he messed with Winter Soldier, right? He had messed with Bucky, and maybe he knows more secrets that are still buried away in Bucky's mind. Who knows? Who knows? But it's going to be good regardless. All right. Murray Reich writes, it's crazy that in one calendar year, we have 3 Boston area teams in championship games. Well, obviously, we had the Patriots. What else do we got? The Sox aren't in. Oh, were the Sox in the championship? I don't follow baseball that much. There's that. And then, and then, of course, the Bruins, which I'm trying not to think about because they knocked my Leafs out again this year. Second year in a row, the Bruins knocked my Leafs out. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for opening that wound. Anyway, Shrivastav writes, really stoked for Zemo and Sharon Carter to be in the Disney Plus series. Me too, man. I know you don't care for Zemo, John, but please have an open mind. No, I like the character. I like the character very much. People misinterpret me saying, look, what he did in the movie was fairly inconsequential. That does not mean I don't think it's a great character. I do think it's a great character being played by a great actor. So I'm very excited about this. I'm stoked. I just hope they put him to better use in this one than they did in Civil War. But yeah, I'm more than open-minded about it. I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely excited about this. All right. Terrel Wise writes, is Steve Rogers and Sharon Carter related? It all depends on which flimsy cop-out excuse you want to listen to from the people at Marvel about how their multi-dimension and timelines work. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. But again, it all depends on which flimsy excuse cop-out you want to hear from them as to how it works. Because you can make a solid argument that actually, no, in this particular timeline, he doesn't. Maybe in this one, whatever. Generally speaking, though, they were never blood-related. Even in the most strictest of timelines, they were never blood-related. They would have been related by marriage from a certain way of looking at it. But that's the worst-case scenario. So I guess I would say not really. Anyway, Benjamin Bakassi writes, not a question, but Kawhi Leonard's definitely best player of the playoffs. Toronto getting the win tonight. I certainly hope so. And Kawhi's been insane. It's hard for me to get too excited because I know next year he's not going to be in Toronto next year. He's coming to LA. Whether that's to the Lakers or the Clippers, he's coming to LA. And that sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great for people in LA and people who are fans of LA basketball. But I mean, it sucks that he's not going to be on the Raptors next year. But he has been the MVP of the playoffs so far. I don't think they're going to get by the Bucks. Here's a funny thing. I think if they get to the finals, which I don't think they will, if they did, I think they beat the Golden State Warriors. I watched them play this year. Toronto matches up very well with the Golden State Warriors. The funny thing is, while Golden State is a better team than Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee matches up against Toronto much better than Golden State does. And that's why I said going into this series, I said, I think Toronto's going to have a much harder time getting past Milwaukee than they would even against the Golden State Warriors. And some people looked at me like I was crazy, but I stand by it. So I don't think Toronto's getting past Milwaukee. They match up too well against them. But if they do, I think they're going to win the NBA title. but I just don't think they're going to get, I don't think they're going to get there. That's the problem. And I don't think Kawhi is going to be there next year, unfortunately. Alex Cardenas writes, The Talisman is my favorite book. Any news or thoughts? I don't know. I've never read the book. I don't know much about it. I believe Rob has read it, so I wish he was here right now, but yeah, I've never read the book myself, so I don't really have any thoughts on that. Sorry about that, Alex. Jesse Keller writes, do you think Keanu's career is now bigger than ever? No. He's having a nice resurgence because of John Wick. But there was around the Matrix era, that's when he was at his hottest. That's when his career was the hottest. And I don't think it matches that quite yet, but he's having a really nice resurgence right now. It's so good. Have you seen any of the stuff on social media about him? Like all these really cool things he does. He's like the nicest guy in the world. So it couldn't have been happening to a nicer, good Canadian kid kind of guy. So, but I don't think it's bigger now than it has been at certain points in his career. Not at this point yet. That's just my thought. All right. Kella AQ2 writes, Toy Story trailer review and no mention of Duke. Oh yeah, the Canadian. You are one bad Canadian, John. Well, I mean, that wasn't the Canadian stuntman was not the central part of the trailer. So I didn't want to go too Homer on it. You know what I mean? But that was a pretty fun character in the trailer. Canadian stuntman's got all the Canadian flag stuff off and all the poses he's doing. That was a pretty fun character. You're right. I probably should have at least brought him up, Kayla. All right. Shinigami I writes, Endgame might fall $20 to $30 million short of Avatar. It's possible, but I still think it'll just barely crawl over the line. But it's gone from everybody saying, foregone conclusion is going to catch Avatar. And it's only a question about how much over $3 billion it's going to go. Well, it ain't going to get to $3 billion. That's that much I feel pretty safe about. But I still think it'll catch Avatar, but I don't think it's going to go very far past Avatar. I know it's just going to crawl over that line and then putter out. But I still think it's going to do. But like I've been saying this whole time, it's possible it won't. It's possible it won't. All right. But even if it doesn't, who cares? One of the most successful movies of all time. Eduardo Aumada writes, my kid is 5 years old and loved The Dark Crystal. That's some damn good parenting right there, Eduardo. Another series to watch together. Awesome. See, I was actually lamenting a little bit earlier today on the John Campea Show that, you know, even my friends who have kids, they show their kids Lion King and they show their kids the original Toy Story and they show their kids this and that. I don't know a lot of them that have showed their kids The Dark Crystal. And I questioned today whether it was even one that was good for kids or not, because it can be a little dark and a little scary. But hearing you, Eduardo, saying that you've shown it to your kid loves it, that gives me hope for the future because Dark Crystal is awesome. Good job on you, Eduardo. All right. Jason Schrum writes, love Michael Shannon, just seen 99 Homes and loved it. Of course, he'll always be General Zod to me. He was great in Boardwalk Empire. He was great in The Shape of Water. He's great in everything he's in. He's just one hell of an actor. They've been sitting on this movie, The Current War, ever since 2017 because of all the political backlash and fallout with the Harvey Weinstein situation, because the movie was wrapped up with the Weinstein Company. Now it's under a new company. It's under 101 Productions, I believe is the name of the company. They've announced an October release date this year. It's finally going to hit theaters, and I cannot wait to see Michael Shannon in this. Not to mention the rest of this incredible cast. Benedict Cumberbatch is in there. Nicholas Hoult is in there. Fabulous cast. Fabulous subject material. I cannot wait. I've been waiting 2 years to see it. Almost 2 years. I've been waiting almost 2 years to watch this film. It's finally going to get into theaters. All right. Marie Seifring writes, Zemo knows the Russian code words that used to trigger Bucky. Over under 50%, we see Zemo try to use them as early as the third episode. And then she follows up, over under 30%, the words still trigger Bucky. I got a feeling the words don't still trigger Bucky. But here's the intriguing thing, Marie. What other secrets about Bucky does he know? Because that was a big book. That book wasn't just one page with 8 keywords or however many words there were on it. That was a book. So how many secrets of Bucky are in there that maybe even Bucky doesn't know are still there? He could still pose a threat to him in different ways. So I'm going to take over 50% that the secrets he learned about Bucky in Civil War come into play in this movie. I'll take under 30% that the same trigger words are used. I got a feeling they kind of got that out of them. So I'll say under 30% they use the same trigger words, but I'll take over 50% that something else about the secrets Zemo learned about him do come into play. That's my guess at this point, at any rate. All right, Patrick Conway writes, if it makes sense that these characters are in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Guys, please try not to use abbreviations. Anyway, it makes sense that these characters are in Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's not like they're Ant-Man or Spider-Man. I won't be shocked if Fury, Hill, and both Rosses appear. Yeah, at this point, I mean, how many characters do you cram in? So I don't know if those ones will, but I wouldn't be shocked. And you're right. They fit in perfectly. It's actually the Captain America group, right? Because Sharon Carter was there with Cap and Bucky and Sam in the car at any rate. And then we have Zemo, who played such a pivotal part in Civil War. It makes sense. This is a great fit. And I love that they're doing this. And I cannot wait, Patrick, to see this show. And you're right. I won't be shocked to see Fury and Hill. And maybe one or two of the Rosses show up. It's possible. Let's see. The Senate writes, man, Kathleen Kennedy sure has the worst luck, eh? Is it likely the D&D Star Wars trilogy, that's Benioff and Weiss, may suffer the same fate as Rian Johnson's? No. Here's the thing. We talked about this morning on the show. As much as a bunch of people cry and whine, and that's what we do as fans. I do it, you do it. We all do some crying and whining sometimes, right? So as much as some people cried and whined about season 7 and season 8 of Game of Thrones, the fact of the matter is, we talked about this morning, the ratings have gone up and up and up and up and up, breaking all their records. And as a matter of fact, the per episode average viewership for season 8 was 10 million per episode higher than the per episode viewership of season 7. So as much as there are people out there who whine and moan and complain, and that's what we do. I do it about some TV shows and movies. You do it about some TV shows and movies. So there are others who will do that about Game of Thrones as well. Now, I love this season of Game of Thrones, but there are a bunch of people who whine and complained about it. And that's fair. As much as there have been some people doing that, fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people who loved it, and the numbers just went up and up and up and up and up and up and up until it broke all sorts of records and all that kind of stuff. And so, no, I don't think the people at Lucasfilm are going, oh no, Benioff and Weiss, their show just got bigger and bigger numbers and got more and more popular and got more and more successful until it finally ended with the biggest ratings HBO's ever had in their existence. Oh no, boo-hoo. Yeah, no. Now you can feel that Disney should be mad at, you can feel that way and that's fine. But if you're in a boardroom and you're just looking at the numbers and you're looking at the statistics, their success just went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. They built a show that has become the most powerful pop cultural show maybe in the history of television. That just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more successful and more people watching and more becoming fanatic about it. And say what you want about whether you liked or didn't like the last season. Fact of the matter is, the numbers kept going up and up and up and up and up. So, nope, I don't think the people at Lucasfilm are regretting anything at this point. Now, if the ratings continue to drop and drop and drop and drop, and then you get to the series finale and it's like the lowest numbers they've had in 5 years and blah, blah, blah. Hey, that might have been a different story. That may have been a different story. But this, as a trajectory of success, is never something that a company is going to lament. Not at all. All right. Sujith writes, speaking of Daniel Bruhl, F1 legend Niki Lauda, I heard about this earlier today. Niki Lauda, who he played in the movie Rush with Chris Hemsworth, passed away today. Sad day for motorsport. With Rush, we saw his great comeback story, RIP. I was really sad to hear that. And it was sadly ironic that it all happened on the same day that it becomes announced that Daniel Bruhl is coming back to the MCU. If you guys have not seen Rush, with Daniel Bruhl giving the performance of his lifetime, playing Niki Lauda, and Chris Hemsworth, by the way, who was also stupid good in that movie. It's a great movie. Do yourself a favor and check it out. It's really good. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Sujith. Okay, Terrel Wise writes, how do we know if a TV streaming show is successful if there's no box office like Netflix shows? Does the show stick around? Like a lot of the streaming services do not release their viewership numbers, and they're not obliged to either. That's their own private information. It's nobody's business what the viewership numbers are. I mean, I would like it if they did let us know, gives us something to talk about, but it's their private information. They don't have to share it if they don't want to. How do we know if it's successful? If they keep putting out seasons. If they keep putting out seasons, that's probably a pretty good indicator that it's doing well for the network. I mean, that's not the be-all, end-all, and I'm sure there are exceptions to that, absolutely. But a general rule of thumb is if they keep making them, it's probably pretty successful for them. That's my guess. All right. Eric Huffman writes, any chance that Zack Snyder ever directs another comic book movie given his exit from WB or DC? There's two different answers to that. One is, does he ever do a Marvel or DC film again? I'm going to say most likely not. You're probably never going to see him do a Marvel or a DC movie again. But in a world where studios are looking at other comic material to translate to the big screen, could that happen? I'd give that a shot. I'd say it has a chance. I wouldn't say it's likely that we're going to see him do another comic book movie, but given that sort of a world, I think there's a possibility, and I'd be intrigued. I like Zack Snyder as a director. His DC experiment didn't work. Despite the fact that I think Man of Steel is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, not many people agree with me. The public was very divided on his Batman versus Superman and on his Justice League and whatever, and it was just not going the direction they wanted it to go. And that's unfortunate. And they parted ways. And so I do not expect either Marvel to work with him again or DC to work with him again. But again, we are going to be getting into an era now where studios are going to be looking for alternate options for comic book material that they could possibly dive into. And I'd give that a shot. I think that has a possibility we could see that. Don't know for sure, but it's possible. Edgarm 1028 writes, which movie takes number one at the box office on May 31st, Godzilla or Rocketman? I bet you didn't know, John. Godzilla in Dolby can't wait. Bet I didn't know what. Anyway, I'm going to guess Godzilla. I don't think Rocketman opens to over $55 or $60 million. I think it'll do well, but I don't see it having a $60 million opening. Godzilla, I can see doing that. So I'm going to guess Godzilla. Don't know for sure. I'm not willing to bet $100 on that. Maybe it could be Rocketman. I don't know. But my guess is Godzilla. All right. Red Kite Films writes, the Mass Effect video game trilogy should be made into a movie now that Sony created its own gaming division. Well, as it created its own movie-making division for its games. It's cinematic already. What are your thoughts? I don't know. I mean, I've got a couple of friends of mine who you guys know that have been saying for a while they'd like to see Mass Effect turned into a movie franchise. There's some possibilities there. I don't know if it was ever popular enough, but that aside, that's not really important. Can it be a good cinematic experience? I mean, maybe. Look, it all comes down to the whole Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone argument. You could make a movie about, hey, let's take this microphone. Let's pretend it suddenly came to life and loved to sing and dance, and his name is Felipe, the Sentient Dancing Microphone. You could make that into an Oscar-winning film. You can. It's unlikely, but it's possible. In a world where a Lego movie about plastic building blocks becomes a fantastic film, anything is possible. Can that work? Sure it could. But that's an expensive film to make. Mass Effect is so much more, would be such a more radically expensive film to make than, say, Uncharted. Now, all of these films, Uncharted, God of War, things like, these are all going to be expensive movies, but you're talking about really having to go to the bank to make Mass Effect. I don't know if that's something they're going to do. But who knows? Maybe they come out of the gate, make a couple of successful ones, make some money, gives them some confidence, and maybe then they do decide to spend $200 million on a Mass Effect movie. Who knows? Have to wait and see. It'd be interesting. It would certainly be interesting. All right. The Bearded One, I like that name, writes, what pair would be the better team up? Ethan Hunt, John Wick, or James Bond? Would never happen, but I'd be cool to see all three in a movie. Oh, I think that would be an awful, ugly, mess, sloppy, terrible movie, to be honest with you. That sounds like a fun 10-minute YouTube video. Does not sound like a very interesting movie to me. I'm just being honest. It does not. It sounds like a great fun 10-minute YouTube video. Does not sound like a full motion picture to me. These three do not work in each other's worlds. Out of the ones that would, you have to take John Wick out of the equation. That's almost a mythological kind of level stuff going on there. So I would say the ones that theoretically would match up better would be the Ethan Hunt and James Bond. But even then, stylistically, it's just so different. I think it would be a very sloppy movie. Put John Wick in there, it becomes unwatchable. A fun 10-minute video on YouTube? Absolutely. Motion picture? Probably not. But theoretically, I'd go Ethan Hunt with James Bond because they're at least feel like remotely they could possibly be in the same universe. Whereas John Wick is just a different thing altogether. Nerds of Porn writes, will Thor have a major role in Guardians 3? My guess is yes. And again, it's just a guess. But my guess is he's going to be part of the Asgardians of the Galaxy. He's going to have as major a role, I think, as Rocket or Drax or Star-Lord will have. I mean, it's not going to be Thor with his friends, the Guardians. It's not like he's going to be the main character. But will he have a major role? Yeah, much like in the first Guardians film where they all had major roles. I think he will have a major role to play. Because I believe he's going to be working with the team. At least that's where Endgame ended off, where he's now with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So, yeah, and I think that's probably what James Gunn had in mind. Now, I don't know this, but that's my guess. So I'm going to think yes. I'm going to go out on a limb here, nerds, and say yes. Tom McKenzie writes, Keanu Reeves in Toy Story 4 dipped that wick. Yeah, again, I tend not to get too terribly excited because Keanu Reeves isn't in Toy Story 4. Keanu Reeves went down for an afternoon into a sound booth and read some lines into a microphone and then went home and collected his paycheck. But I tend not to get overly excited about big celebrity, recognizable names going in and doing some voice work in an animated film, particularly if it's one of the smaller roles. So him doing a voice in the movie, while I think it's cool, it doesn't get me any more excited for the movie because him doing that voice as opposed to somebody else doing the voice isn't going to make the movie any better, to be honest. That's just the way I kind of see it. So is it cool? Yes. Does it get me more excited for the movie? No. I'm more excited to go see John Wick again tonight. I'll be honest with you. All right. Terry Giordano writes, Jurassic World ride coming to Universal. Interesting? Yes, I think it's very interesting. I've seen they even have TV commercials for it now. For this new Jurassic World ride, I'll tell you what, I think it looks like fun. Now, I really liked the Kong Skull Island kind of tour bus ride. You go in the tunnel and you're immersed in this 3D experience. It's awesome. And this looks like it's a little bit along those lines. But I think it looks a lot of fun. Universal Hollywood, by the way, is like a 12-minute ride straight up the street for me. Like literally get on the street, head south, and you're at Universal Theme Park in 12 minutes. And Anna and I got annual passes. So I'm very curious. I want to go check that right out. So yes, I am definitely interested, Terry. All right. Film Fan Rant writes, haha, I read my live chat and saw my mistake. Yes, Mulan. Oh, I know what you're talking about. So earlier in the show, you wrote in a bunch of theories. Hey, do you think this movie could do this? And I'm like, dude, what movie? You didn't say what movie. Like you wrote this big long thing. Do you think they could avoid the problems of such and such, blah, blah, blah. And I read it again. I'm like, dude, you didn't say what movie you were talking about. I don't know what movie you're talking about, but it sounds like you got it yourself. Okay. But we made the assumption, although I didn't know for sure, we made the assumption you were talking about Mulan, but that was very considerate of you, Film Fan Rant, to follow up just to clarify. That's considerate of you. Thank you for that. All right. And the final question we've got to get caught up on here today comes to us from Luke Blackwell, who writes, do you think we will see a crossover with Robert Pattinson's Batman and Joaquin Phoenix Joker? All right. Something to keep in mind before anything else. Number one, Robert Pattinson is not officially Batman. There are reports he's in negotiations, There are reports saying he's the pick. There are negotiations. But remember, Joaquin Phoenix was in negotiations too to play Doctor Strange, and then that fell apart. So as of right now, Robert Pattinson is not Batman yet. It looks like it's heading that way, but just keep that in mind for now. For now, it's not official. Let's assume for a moment, for the sake of discussion, that he becomes official. Okay. Do I think we'll see that crossover? No. I think they've made it very clear the Joker thing is its own standalone Elseworlds thing, period. At least that's what they've said, and they've made that pretty clear. And Joaquin Phoenix does not sign up for multiple films. Remember, we were just talking about how Joaquin Phoenix was in negotiations to play Doctor Strange. The thing that killed it, he didn't want a big multi-film contract. He didn't want to be obligated to come back and do more films. And that was a big sticking point for him and one of the main reasons he walked away. Now, we ended up with Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and he's awesome as Doctor Strange, so it was a win-win for everybody. But, so I'm going to go ahead and guess no. Is it impossible? Not impossible. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess the answer to that is most likely no. Everything that's come out of Warner Brothers is that this Joker movie is a completely separate, completely on its own, standalone film, divorced from anything else going on in their cinematic universes. So, no, I do not think we're going to see that crossover. Never say never. They could pull a fast one, but it looks like that's not the case for now. Okay, guys, that will do it for this installment of our companion videos. Guys, thank you so much for being here and contributing, and not just contributing your questions by giving us great fun stuff to talk about, but by doing so, you also support the channel. And seriously, guys, thank you so much for that. You're the reasons we're able to keep these shows on the air. You, our Patreon supporters, thank you so much for all that, guys. You have no idea. I'm just not good enough of a wordsmith to put into words how grateful both myself, Ray, Jonathan, Robert Meyer Burnett, Ashley Whalen are that you guys support the channel that way. So thanks for being here and being a part of the community as well, guys. Hey, listen, don't forget the John Campea Show returns tomorrow, again with me, Ashley Whalen, Robert Meyer Burnett. We're already working on a bunch of cool, fun stories we're going to be talking about on tomorrow's show. Don't forget, we live stream at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 12 p.m. East Coast time. Come on by and join us if you like. We're going to actually start, you guys are going to be the first to know this. I'm actually going to start making the show a little bit longer. We've been trying to aim for the hour and a half mark, but I think I might start making the show a little bit longer because I'm just finding that people are really enjoying. It's not for everybody. I'm finding people really like doing the live chat part. And I'm thinking we're going to extend that a little bit. But yeah, we'll start playing around with it, see what works best for everybody. But anyway, come on by tomorrow and join us and find out. Hey guys, I'm going to go get myself ready. I think my wife's going to be home from her job here pretty soon. We're going to go off to the movie theaters and watch us some John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum again, which I'm very excited about. All right, guys, thanks for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.